Oh my god!
There are a variety of aiming techniques that have been coined since aiming has become a hobby. There are the classics like flicking and tracking, and the more obscure types like pre-aim and click timing. As aiming evolves, I believe it's in the best interest of the hobby to put these different techniques into context. To do this, I devised the gradient of techniques. On the left you have reaction, and on the right you have prediction. All techniques and aim styles fall along these two opposites. For example, hit scan is predominantly reaction-based, whereas projectiles are predominantly prediction-based. So what's the purpose of creating these categories? There is an interesting nuance to aiming that's not talked about all that much. Aiming is essentially an act of coordination. You are coordinating your nervous system with your motor system. This then leads on to the purpose of the technique gradient. It shows you what nervous system information is being used more predominantly in either technique. I call this the hand-eye relationship. When we are improving our aim, it's in our best interest to put into context these techniques within this relationship. I like to break up the gradient into a variety of regions. We have the aim region above and the movement region below, the neutral zone in the middle, the reaction region to the left, and the prediction region to the right, creating a total of 5 different regions. Any technique will have similarities to others in the same region. For example, if you were to practice click timing, you would see a knock-on effect to your flicking, because the underlying principles are similar. A good rule of thumb is that the more extreme a technique, the more I would suggest you practicing it in an aim trainer or in a specific environment. My guess as to why this happens isn't particularly scientific. I think it may just be because there's more factors going on in the central techniques, so you can as easily focus in on them in an aim trainer. The two big regions are aim and movement. Aim takes up the upper half, movement the lower half. I haven't put too much thought into movement besides two broad categories, compensative and deliberate. The idea being you can either be moving with the goal to compensate for something, e.g., you need to dodge a shot, or you are moving deliberately to achieve something, like rocket jumping. Yet again, I haven't put too much thought into it, but it seems like a promising venture. For aim, on the other hand, I have fleshed it out quite thoroughly, subdividing it into 3 groups with a variety of techniques. The most important being the central zone, with reaction and prediction then radiating out from it. Within the central zone, we have 3 techniques. Drag aim. The most important technique is drag aim. This is the process of speeding up and slowing down your movement with the movement of your target. The end goal being not necessarily to land a shot, but to put yourself in a position where it is easy to land a shot. You do this by gradually slowing down as you get closer to the target. By having this become a second nature, you greatly improve the consistency of your aim. Click timing. This falls more towards the reaction side of the central region. It's the process of literally timing the click of your mouse. Many people get caught up on the idea of flicking. They misunderstand that flicks are quite the niche technique. And oftentimes what you may think of as a flick is oftentimes just click timing. A flick requires a lot of commitment. If you over-aim or under-aim, it's quite hard to readjust. So if you instead slow down the actual movement, and instead focus on landing your click timing, you greatly reduce the issue of commitment. Tracking. Tracking is the process of keeping your mouse on the target. Though that may sound simple, you must remember that a lot of factors can go into that. Speed, direction, size of target, shape, and so on. The combination of all these different variables causes it to be more prediction dependent, since even if you can react to a sudden change, it's often more reliable to predict based off of what you already know. For example, if you were tracking an airplane and you knew what speed and direction it would go, it would be a comparatively easy task instead of, say, tracking a ball which could go in any direction imaginable. Hit scan aim. In games, we often use lasers which instantly detect a shot on an enemy. So even though you may in Counter-Strike be shooting a gun with bullets, those bullets are actually just a simulation. This means we get more leeway, since the shots just land instantaneously. This makes it more conducive to reaction, since there isn't any travel time for you to have to compensate for. Flicking. This is possibly the most famous aim technique. It's the process of launching your mouse after locking onto a specific target's location. The reason this is more reaction dependent is quite simple: time. Flicks are inherently fast, so you have to have the reaction time to actually process the position of the target. So yes, there is an element of prediction, since you have to be able to guess when you click. But for the most part, it's the actual reacting to the position which is important. Target acquisition. As I just mentioned, knowing the position of a target is really important. If your mind is muddled about where to aim, you are essentially paralyzed. We call this process of knowing target acquisition. It is basically filtering out the visual data you have, so you know what to do with it. If you have a high degree of accuracy and a high speed when it comes to this filtering, you will then be able to know what to do and where to aim. This is particularly pronounced in very chaotic games like Overwatch, or speed scenarios like Jumbo Tile Frenzy. When using a projectile, we have to account for more factors, namely, speed/size of the projectile and the future position of the enemy. Since projectiles are so heavily prediction-based, you should very rarely actually have your crosshair on the enemy. This is quite ironic, since you could argue this is the most difficult form of aim. Crosshair placement. This is when you have set rules for where to aim. That may sound a bit strange, but think of it like this. If you were playing Counter-Strike, every character model is basically the same height and shape, so there is very little reason to ever aim below or above a certain height. This can also be extended to other things. For example, in Overwatch characters, they have a wide variety of shapes and sizes, as well as a variety of animations they do. If you can memorize and know how to deal with these different animations and shapes and sizes, you can then place your crosshair in such a way that you make aiming passively easier for yourself. Pre-aim. Pre-aim builds upon crosshair placement. I'd argue it is a more specific and situational form of it. You essentially start thinking about more and more factors until you can pinpoint the exact position to aim at. If you know, for example, that somebody is moving up connector on A site Mirage, and that they are hugging this wall because you heard them, then you might as well narrow down on that position as much as possible. I have made a document containing suggested routines for each aim technique, as well as other information. If that is useful to you, I would suggest using it. I'm going to make a series on aim and aim techniques, so here's the playlist so far. Thank you for watching.